It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All the sports news you need every day in under 20 minutes. Follow Locked On today on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello everybody, Josh Neighbors here for the Locked On Nationals podcast. Today's show is brought to you by rockauto.com. Go to rockauto.com today to find the best prices for parts for your car or truck. Once again, that's rockauto.com. On today's show, it is August 3rd, 2021, and we will be discussing the Nationals' 7-5 loss last night against the Philadelphia Phillies. But most importantly, it was the debut of Nationals' new prospect, Josiah Gray, who they acquired in the Max Scherzer and Trey Turner deal, where they sent them out to Los Angeles. So Josiah Gray was obviously part of the haul. K-Bear Ruiz, the other big prospect the Nationals got too. Got a couple other ones, but those two guys were the big ones. And we'll discuss what we saw from Josiah Gray last night. All right, let's get into it. The Washington Nationals fall 7-5 against the Philadelphia Phillies last night, but the important thing for the Nationals was the debut of Josiah Gray, once again the pitching prospect they got from the Los Angeles Dodgers in their trade. He becomes the second highest rated Nationals prospect in their farm system, behind K-Bear Ruiz, who they just acquired as well in that trade from Los Angeles. And Josiah Gray made his third Major League appearance last night in this game. First couple didn't quite go his way during his time in Los Angeles. And look, he made 2 appearances, 1 start for the Dodgers. He only threw a very limited amount of innings. So, I mean, they're not a guy that we saw a whole lot of. But for the Dodgers, it was 2 appearances, a total of 7 innings. And in those 2 appearances, he ended up giving up a total of 6 runs. And a problem for him has been the home run ball just during his time in the major leagues. And he gave up 1 last night, but for the most part, a solid performance. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 2 Ks. So not a whole, on 71 pitches too. Not a whole lot of strikeouts. He's got good strikeout quality stuff. Josiah Gray does. But last night, the things that I really liked was the fact that he would get ahead. I think at one point in the game, he started off the first 9 batters, 8 of them got first pitch strikes. So this is a guy that is going to try to pound strike zone. He's going to try to get ahead of you. And I like that. I am, if you guys listen to the show, I'm a fan of guys like Joe Ross, guys like Max Scherzer. Those guys don't really try and nibble as much. Those guys try to attack the strike zone and go after it. For Josiah Gray, he's got 4 pitches, a fastball, curveball, slider, and a changeup, and he'll use them. And he'll throw that fastball a majority of the time, but the curveball and the slider definitely likes to use. He'll mix in the changeup, but does not use it as much. And last night, it was a steady dose of fastballs in the 71 pitches that he ended up throwing. He got a lot of pop-outs, and I think that's just because he did a good job of getting ahead of guys and really staying on them with the fastball. And so making those guys felt like they had to put swings on balls because they was going to be in the zone and making them mess up. I thought he did a great job of that. And also thought he did a pretty good job with pitch location. There was a stretch where he got 4 or 5 consecutive guys to pop out. A couple of them were foul ball pop-outs, which usually means that the guys aren't putting great swings. They're missing the pitches. And part of that is location. If you're locating that fastball in different parts of the zone, guys in the pitches coming, they just don't know where it's going to be. And so I thought he started off a pretty good location. It did dip and slip a little bit later on in the game. But once again, the first thing I liked from Josiah Gray's outing, as I said, fastballs, and he did a great job getting ahead. Third inning, defense tried to screw him over a little bit. Carter Kieboom got in front of Adrian Sanchez at one point to put him in a bit of a difficult situation. he was able to work out of that situation. And once again, between the 4 hits and the 2 walks, he had some traffic on the base paths, but was able to work through it pretty well. As I said, plenty of pop-ups there, worked out of jams in consecutive innings into the 4th. And then, this goes for a lot of guys, but you have to get better as you face the lineup each time through. Felt like guys second or third time began to key in on him just a little bit more. And look, that's very common. That's very common in the major leagues. We've seen that with Joe Ross, right? The second and third time through is difficult. The only guy, that comes to the top of my mind that's a lot better the second, third time through is Jacob deGrom. And obviously he is a special player who is currently in his own category. I think you could say that's with pretty, a lot of confidence that he's by himself in that respect. So, there aren't many guys who get better as they go along in the game in terms of, the opponent's batting average and how the opponents see him second and third time through the order. The home run he gave up, fastball looked like it had a little bit of movement on it. 94. It was against Odubel Herrera hitting from the left side. And Josiah Gray just kind of leaves the fastball in there. It almost looked like it started in on Odubel's knees, worked back towards the middle of the plate, and he put a great swing on that ball and just absolutely crushed it. And so that was the one big mistake that he made in this game, Odubel Herrera. The 7th pitch of the at-bat, too, just down in the kind of middle of the plate, and he ends up taking that thing way out. So I thought that was his only mistake in the 5th inning. He was able to get past it and finish up, and 5 innings of 1-run ball on a day where I think Josiah Gray would tell you it probably was not his best stuff is really good. And this kid's got a lot of room to work, but I think he's got the tools to be a very, not going to say a star pitcher. I don't know if I feel like he's going to be an absolute star, but a really strong 1, 2, or 3 in a rotation. He's absolutely got the stuff. Now, he could turn out to be a freaking star. You never know. He's only 23 years old, right? So, you talk about people's pitching primes. I mean, while guys are pitching later into the careers, your Max Scherzer of the world, I mean, your pitching primes is going to be in your 30s usually, right? We see guys kind of peak in their early 30s. Your Max Scherzer's obviously he's just gotten, he's been really steady in his 30s. Your Jacob deGrom's, your Marcus Stroman's just turned 30, right? Kevin Gausman is a guy that we all know that is up into his, it just reached his 30s, I believe, right? Just turned 30. So these guys, your pitching prime is really in that time period. Garrett Cole's of the world, right? So your late 20s, early 30s, kind of in that range is where you do your best work. And for him, he's such a far way off from that. So he's got plenty of time to learn and grow. Joe Ross, another example, he's hit 29 and is having his best season yet. So expect some growing pains. But this guy, I think the fact that he's at the major league level right now, getting these opportunities now is going to accelerate some of that growth process, hopefully, for the Washington Nationals. And this was a very solid start for the career of Josiah Gray here in Washington, D.C. So I think there's a lot to be happy about for him. He says that friends and personal and people really close to him can call him JoJo. To us randoms who don't know him, he prefers to go by Josiah. So there's a letter of the law when it comes to that. All right, we'll discuss the rest of the game when we come back, but first, a word from our sponsors. Today's Locked On Nationals podcast is brought to you by Wild Alaskan. We all know we should be eating more fish to get our omega-3s and protein, but the seafood counter can be an intimidating place. Which fish tastes the best? What type of cut? Can you really be sure of the quality? Wild Alaskan Company takes the guesswork out of buying wild-caught seafood. You're used to having a lot of choices when it comes to what you eat, but it matters where your food comes from. Get your nutrition from nature. The Wild Alaskan Company sources wild-caught seafood from Alaska and the Pacific Northwest. Wild Alaskan delivers high-quality, substantially sourced, wild-caught seafood right to your door. Choose from salmon, whitefish, or a combination, and every month there are different specials to explore. And right now you can get $15 off your first box of premium seafood when you visit wildalaskancompany.com/MLB. That's wildalaskancompany.com/MLB for $15 off your first box. wildalaskancompany.com/LockedOnMLB. Make sure you use the URL code to let them know that we sent you. Once again, wildalaskan.com/MLB.
David Harrison here, the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast, celebrating with you a 21 grain salute to a less boring sandwich thanks to Dave's Killer Bread. I don't know about you guys, but when I eat pizza, I eat it for the toppings, not the crust. And when I eat a sandwich, it's for what's inside the bread, not for the bread. But when I throw a sandwich on 21 whole grains and seeds, thin sliced bread from Dave's Killer Bread, it is the epitome of addition by subtraction. That thin sliced bread lets me focus on what's inside the sandwich, but also adds to the sandwich with killer taste, killer texture, killer nutrition, a subtle sweetness, and a seed-coated crust. Dave's Killer Bread is America's #1 organic bread for a reason. It tastes so stinking good. Dave's Killer Bread is made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients and is power-packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your local grocery store.
All right, so let's get to the game itself. Once again, it was Phillies 7, Nationals 5, and obviously the start of Josiah Gray is what we just talked about, but this game really didn't heat up until the later innings. It was 0-0 going into the fifth. We had that Odubel Herrera home run, but then we got an Andrew Stevenson pinch hit home run in the sixth, and that made it game on. And the Nationals at this point, the problem they're having is that they're bringing in a lot of guys that are not front top at tier, I should say, bullpen guys. In this game, Mason Thompson, who we'll get to in a second, made his appearance, his debut for the Nats. Sam Clay, Andres Machado, Gabe Klobosits, and Wander Suero all pitched. And Wander Suero had a rough day on Sunday, had a rough day again today. But I want to talk Mason Thompson. So Mason Thompson, they acquire in that trade for Daniel Hudson. So he is the guy that gets sent over from the Padres to the Nationals. He's not worked many innings for the Padres. He's worked 3 total during his time in San Diego. Last night was his 4th major league inning that he's worked. For fans that just got to know him last night, or if you did not catch the game last night, he's a sinker baller. This is a guy that throws 95% sinkers. That is just where he sits. He loves that pitch. It's a hard sinker. He likes to work off that. He's got a 4-seamer. He's got a changeup, but for this guy, it is going to be a majority of sinker balls, and it's a hard sinker. I mean, he throws this thing, I think mostly on average, 97.4 mile an hour sinker, 96, 97 with the fastball, and then changeups around there at 87. So that's where he sits with those pitches, but he's just going to use that sinker, and we saw him get himself in some trouble. I mean, all the hits came with 2 outs, and the walk came with 2 outs. But was able to work himself out of it in that 6th inning, showed some character. I thought it was a nice appearance for him, and so there's a lot to look forward to for the Nationals because that is a guy that brings, one of those singular pitch guys, but it's a damn good pitch. And so that is something that definitely adds to this bullpen, and we're seeing, because the Nats are depleting the bullpen, right? Will Harris is out for the year. Tanner Rainey has been optioned to AAA. Daniel Hudson has been traded away. Brad Hand was traded away. There are plenty of opportunities for guys to get some work, and Mason Thompson is going to see some work. So it was a positive experience, I'd say, overall, just to see Mason Thompson in the game and to he had a chance to implode, and he didn't. So that's important. New place, new location is tough to do, but he was able to get the job done there. Sam Clay ends up struggling. He's just really been going through. I know he's the lefty that they've got, but it's not been smooth sailing for Sam Clay this year. Gene Segura scores in the 7th inning on a wild pitch, which got Realmuto to second, Harper to third, but that was by Andres Machado in the 7th inning, and so the Nationals ended up surrendering the lead there. Ryan Zimmerman with the bases loaded singles to left field. That was a great spot to see him come in the game, and a good job by Garcia and Kieboom and Barrera, all getting on base to set up Zim in that pinch hit spot. The Nationals take the lead there. Then in the 9th inning, Gabe Klobosits looked okay in the 8th, but here's the problem with Gabe Klobosits, friends. Gabe Klobosits gives up like really loud outs. Like everything is a loud out. I was watching the other day, and he got pounded the previous game, but everything for him is a loud out. He gave up a really hard hit ball to the right side. Ball hit pretty deep in the outfield too. And then yesterday, on Sunday when I saw him pitch, same thing. A couple balls to the warning track, I think it was, but a lot of loud outs. This guy is pitching to contact, and actually he's got pretty decent stuff. He's only 26 years old, but for him, a challenge so far. He threw 2/3 of an inning, gave up a run against Chicago this weekend in the first game that he pitched on the 30th, and then came back on Sunday and worked a clean inning, but threw only 7 pitches because he pitches contact. This guy is throwing right to contact. He's throwing strikes, and it can be easy to dial in on him, and they did. In that top of the 9th inning, they were able to get the Klobosits, and also perpetuated by the struggles of one Wander Suero. Those two guys combined in the last 2 innings to throw. They ended up throwing 2 innings combined, give up 5 runs. All of them earned total. They walk 1 combined. That walk goes to Wander Suero and only get 1 K between the 2 of them. So those 2 guys really blew it for the Nationals. In the end of the game, this was a close and competitive game, but it was thrown off kilter by that. In the 9th inning, Gene Segura, Real Muto, Alec Boehm, and Didi Gregorius all drive-in runs in different ways. And then the 9th inning, the Nats showed some fight. Carter Kieboom hits a 2-run home run to get the Nationals back within 2, but they were not able to do anything after that. And so this lineup, the struggle for them for the rest of the year is going to be trying to have some teeth, right? They need this thing if they want to win games, at somewhat of a respectable clip. I said that their goal should try to be to finish the year 500 or above at home. And I think with the quality of player they have right now, they've got right now Sanchez, Hernandez, Kieboom, Garcia, Barrera, and Steve. You can throw Stevenson in there too. Those guys are all not everyday players who are going to play in some kind of everyday capacity, or at least show up every single day. I know Stevenson's gotten a lot of reps, but he's not an everyday guy. All of those guys are going to be basically regulars for the Nationals the rest of the year. So they got to see what they can get from those guys, because we've already seen it. Juan Soto, it's hard for him to find a rhythm, I feel like, because teams are just going to, they've got a lot of opportunities to walk him, to bring up. I know Josh Bell has been okay, but, they prefer to walk him and face guys like Bell and Hernandez and Kieboom and Garcia and Barrera, because they feel like they'll take their chances there and the right to do it. So I think Juan's going to be thrown off his rhythm, because I'm not sure he's going to get pitched to as much as he'd like the rest of the year. Last night he goes 1 for 3 with a walk. And so, that's something to track here, is how does the offense kind of shape up around. And also 2 guys in front of him last night, 0 for 7 are Robles and Sanchez. Robles gets hit by a pitch. That's how he found his way aboard. So the Nationals, I'm looking at that front end part of the lineup to see what happens there, because we talked about earlier in the year the quality that Schwarber and Turner and Soto, not just as individuals, but as a collective 1, 2, and 3, the menace that they brought, the ability to scare other pitchers and to not let them take a breath, take a pitch off against those 3 guys. And once you got through them, all right, I can breathe. Here comes Josh Bell, who's been hitting the ball really well. That was the benefit of that lineup. They've lost those teeth. Robles is struggling. He's hitting 198. Sanchez has not been up there very long, so I'm not going to really, his batting average doesn't really matter. But, Yadier Hernandez has been on a tear, but still not an everyday guy. Carter Kieboom and Garcia and Barrera, those guys, it's going to be a struggle for the Nats. It's going to be a struggle for them offensively. They knew that when they made all those trades. And even at times without the trades, even when they had a full deck on offense, they still had some times where they struggled a lot this year. So that's going to be a something to watch. And look, this one's actually not on the offense. The Nationals, I thought, did enough offensively to win this game. The bullpen is what cost them between Suero and Klobosits. And Suero, they use him a lot, but it's an uphill climb for him right now. I'm not sure this guy's going to find himself in the bullpen next year with the way he's pitched this season. It's just not reliable enough. All right, once again, 7-5 Nationals fall. They are now 49-57. They're still just 6.5 games back of the New York Mets, who lost last night, which brings the Phillies within 2.5 games, the Braves within 3.5. Obviously, as I said, the Nats are within 5.5, or 6.5 rather, and the Marlins are within 10.5. All right, we're going to take one more break, and then when we return, we will discuss what's left in this series for the Nationals and what to watch for coming up. But first, a word from our sponsors. Today's Locked On Nationals podcast is brought to you by our friends at betonline.ag. Betonline.ag is the best place to bet on all of your favorite sports action, NBA, NHL, UFC, the Olympics. All of that is available at betonline.ag. Before the next pitch, go to BetOnline on your computer, on your smartphone, on your tablet, whatever you want to use, you can do it. Make an account. It's free to sign up. And then when you do, use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON, locked on. When you use that promo code, you will get a 50% deposit bonus. If you deposit $100, you'll get an extra $50 to play with today at betonline.ag. BetOnline, they're your online sportsbook experts. Today's Locked On Nationals podcast is also brought to you by rockauto.com. RockAuto.com is the best place to find affordable parts for your car or truck. Go to rockauto.com today to check out the thousands of parts from hundreds of manufacturers that they've got available. Whatever you need, they have it. And also, you will pay less at rockauto.com. Do not go to a chain store. Do not go to a dealership. You'll pay up to 30, 50, 70, even 100% more than you should and than you would at rockauto.com. So go check out rockauto.com. Put Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box. That way they know we sent you. Amazing selection, always low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. That's rockauto.com. All right, so the Nationals have 3 more left with the Philadelphia Phillies in this series. 7:05, 7:05, and then 4:05 are your remaining series times for the Nats and the Phillies, as the Nats are wrapping up a homestand right now. But as I mentioned, they've got those games. Last night's game was nice to see. It was on ESPN. Also was on MASN. If you watched the MASN broadcast, they had a cool interview with Josiah Gray's high school coach, who was there last night. But yep, 7:05, 7:05, 4:05. Tonight's Patrick Corbin against Zach Wheeler. And I'd mentioned before, Zach Wheeler, a guy who's, a dark horse candidate, I think, for the Cy Young. Now that Max Scherzer is hurt, I think Zach Wheeler definitely deserves some consideration. He has definitely taken that next step. He's one of those guys we talked about earlier in the show, 31 years old. That is, he is now older and is showing his maturity and class as he is now into the prime of his career. And he's, he and Max have had some battles this year. It feels like Max and Wheeler have gone out, I think, 3 or 4 times head to head. I think Max has gotten the better of him 2 or 3 times this year. I'm not sure. I forgot how many times they've gone head to head, but still. So Zach Wheeler has been dealing this year. It's going to be fun to watch him tonight. Patrick Corbin, just struggle bus for Mr. Corbin this year. Let's see if he can get back on track. Then you've got Paulo Espino going up in the next game against Chase Anderson. Joe Ross and Aaron Nola finish things out on the series. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at @LO_Nationals. You can follow me at @JoshNeighbors_. Until next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Have you ever listened to a podcast like this one and you wanted to bring up your own point or just chat with other people that are listening at the same time? Well, let me tell you about Spotify Green Room. This is the first social audio platform made just for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with us, other fans, athletes, insiders in real time about your favorite sport or team. Download the app, currently available on iOS devices. Create a profile, link your Twitter, join one of the groups for the latest league updates, and then you'll see us there. Spotify Green Room, changing the way we talk sports.